I'm standing in the corner of my parents' ballroom, wearing a black catering uniform that's 2 sizes too big, holding a tray of champagne flutes that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The room is a sea of designer gowns and tailored suits, crystal chandeliers throwing golden light across faces I've seen in Connecticut magazine. This is the Martinez family's annual New Year's Eve party, and I'm here. But I'm not really here. My mother glides past me in her emerald Versace gown, her arm linked with a silver-haired CEO, whose company just got featured in Forbes. "This is my son Daniel," she says, her voice warm with pride as my older brother appears at her side in his custom Tom Ford suit. "Our Harvard graduate. He's an investment banker at Goldman Sachs." The CEO's eyes light up with interest. "Impressive. You must be very proud." "Oh, we are." My mother beams. "Daniel just closed a $50 million deal last month." The CEO turns slightly, noticing me. "And who's this lovely young lady?" My mother's smile doesn't falter, but something cold flashes in her eyes. She looks at me, then through me, as if I'm just another piece of furniture. She turns her body away, gently steering the CEO toward the windows. The view from here is spectacular at night. You can see all the way to the Sound. I stand there, champagne tray trembling slightly in my hands, watching my mother walk away. The CEO glances back once, confused, but follows her lead. "My name is Sophia Martinez. I'm 28 years old. I'm an attorney. And my own mother just pretended I don't exist. But there's someone else in the room watching this interaction, someone I haven't noticed yet. A distinguished man in his early 60s, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a dark suit that speaks of quiet authority. He's standing near the fireplace, and his eyes have been following me since I walked in. There's recognition in his expression, something that looks almost like concern. But I don't see him. I'm too busy blinking back tears, trying to remember how to breathe. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, this story is for you. Stay until the end because what happens in the next hour will change everything. And if you believe people deserve to be seen for who they really are, hit subscribe. 15 years ago, when I was 13, I won first place in the Connecticut State Speech and Debate Championship. The topic was justice for all, and I'd spent 3 months researching, writing, and practicing. I talked about equal access to legal representation, about how the quality of your defense shouldn't depend on the size of your wallet. The judges gave me a standing ovation. My English teacher cried. I held that trophy like it was made of solid gold, and I couldn't wait to show my family. That same week, Daniel got his acceptance letter from Harvard. I remember the celebration dinner at Le Bernardin, the 5-star French restaurant in Manhattan that required reservations months in advance. My father, Richard Martinez, ordered a bottle of champagne that cost $800. My mother, Patricia, couldn't stop crying happy tears, touching Daniel's face like he was a miracle. "My brilliant boy," she kept saying, "my Harvard boy." I brought my trophy with me. I'd wrapped it carefully in my backpack, waiting for the right moment. When the champagne arrived and the toasts began, I pulled it out, setting it on the table next to my water glass. "I have something to share too," I said, my 13-year-old voice small but hopeful. "I won the state championship for speech and debate." My father glanced at the trophy, his eyes barely registering what he was seeing. "That's nice, honey." Then immediately back to Daniel. "So tell us more about Harvard's investment club. I heard they manage a real portfolio." My mother didn't even look. She was fixing Daniel's collar, straightening an already perfect tie. "Sophia, you're slouching. Sit up straight. We're in a nice restaurant." I sat up straight. I put the trophy back in my backpack, and I didn't mention it again. That was the first time I realized something was fundamentally different about how my parents saw me versus how they saw Daniel. But it wasn't the last. Growing up in the Martinez household was like living in 2 parallel universes. In Daniel's universe, every achievement was a family achievement, worthy of celebration and public recognition. When he made the varsity tennis team, my parents threw a party. When he got a 1560 on his SATs, my mother called every relative we had. When he landed his first internship at Morgan Stanley during his sophomore year at Harvard, my father took out a full-page ad in the local paper congratulating him. In my universe, achievements were met with polite acknowledgement before the conversation inevitably pivoted back to Daniel. I got a 1580 on my SATs. My mother said, "That's wonderful, dear," without looking up from her phone. No party. No calls to relatives. When I mentioned it later at dinner, my father said, "Numbers don't matter as much as where you go to school." I wasn't invited to charity galas or networking events like Daniel was. My parents explained that these were important business functions where they needed to make the right impression. The subtext was clear. Daniel, in his designer suits talking about finance, made the right impression. I, with my passion for public interest law and social justice, did not. When it came time for college, the disparity became even more stark. Daniel got a full ride to Harvard, plus my parents gave him an additional allowance of $2,000 a month for living expenses and networking opportunities. I got into Yale with a partial scholarship, which should have been cause for celebration. Instead, my mother sat me down for a realistic conversation. "Yale is very expensive," she said, her voice taking on that practical tone she used when discussing unpleasant necessities. "And you know, community college is a perfectly respectable option. You could always transfer later if you really want a university degree." I stared at her. "Mom, I got into Yale." "Yes, but is it practical? Law school is even more expensive and public interest work doesn't pay well." She paused, then added, "Daniel's career path is more secure." I left that conversation and spent the next 3 hours locked in my room, alternating between crying and researching scholarships. I applied to 47 different scholarship programs. I got a job at the campus bookstore and another one as a writing tutor. I took out loans for what the scholarships didn't cover. I figured it out myself because asking my parents for help meant subjecting myself to more comparisons with Daniel, more reminders that my dreams were less valuable than his. The summer between my junior and senior year of college, I interned at the Legal Aid Society in New Haven. I was assigned to work with families facing eviction, helping them navigate a legal system designed to overwhelm and intimidate people without resources. I'll never forget my first client, Mrs. Chen, a 72-year-old woman whose landlord was trying to evict her so he could renovate and charge higher rent. She cried in our first meeting, certain she'd end up homeless. We won her case. She got to stay in her apartment. She hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe, and she said, "You saved my life. Thank you." I called my mother that night, excited to share the story. She answered on the third ring, sounding distracted. "Mom, you won't believe what happened today. I helped this elderly woman keep her home and—" "That's great, honey." I could hear the clicking of her keyboard. "Did you hear that Daniel got promoted to associate at only 25? His boss says he's one of the most promising analysts they've had in years." The excitement drained out of me like water through a sieve. That's great for Daniel, isn't it? We're so proud. Listen, I have to go. We're planning a celebration dinner for him. Talk later?" She hung up before I could say goodbye. I graduated from Yale with honors. I got into law school at the University of Connecticut with a full scholarship. I graduated law school magna cum laude in the top 10% of my class. And through all of it, my family's response was the same. "That's nice, dear." The day I graduated from law school should have been one of the happiest of my life. I'd worked myself to exhaustion for 3 years, maintained a 3.8 GPA while working 2 part-time jobs, and landed a position at the Legal Aid Society starting immediately after the bar exam. I sent my family the invitation to graduation 2 months in advance. 3 days before the ceremony, I called to confirm they were coming. "Oh, sweetie," my mother said, her tone already apologetic in a way that wasn't really apologetic at all. I completely forgot. I have an appointment at the spa that day. I've had it scheduled for months. "Mom, this is my law school graduation." "I know, and I'm so sorry, but you know how hard it is to get an appointment with Jean-Pierre. He's booked 6 months out. Can't you just send us pictures?" "What about Dad and Daniel?" Your father has his golf club tournament. It's the championship round. And Daniel is closing a big deal. He's been working on it for months. He can't possibly take time off. I stood in my tiny apartment, phone pressed to my ear, trying to understand how my family had scheduling conflicts for every single one of them on the same day. So nobody's coming. We'll celebrate when you get home, my mother said brightly. We're very proud of you, Sophia. You know that. I graduated surrounded by classmates and their families. I watched parents cry and hug their children. I saw grandparents holding up signs and younger siblings running up with flowers. And I stood alone, smiling for a selfie I took with the dean of the law school because I needed at least one photo to prove this day happened. That night, I sat in my apartment eating Chinese takeout directly from the container, my diploma propped up against my laptop. I called my mother one more time. "How was graduation?" she asked. "It was good. I wish you could have been there." "Next time," she said vaguely, as if there would be another law school graduation in my future. "Oh, before I forget, did I tell you Daniel's thinking about buying a place in Tribeca?" I set down my chopsticks. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why?" The question came out smaller than I intended. "Why don't my accomplishments matter to you?" There was a long pause. Then, "Sophia, that's not fair. We're very proud of you, but you have to understand you chose a difficult path. Public interest law, helping people who can't pay you, it's admirable. But it's not exactly Harvard law, is it? We're just being realistic about your future." "My future where I help people who need help." "Your future where you struggle financially and burn yourself out for people who can't even afford to pay you properly." Her voice softened in a way that somehow made it worse. "We love you, honey. We just wish you'd chosen something more sustainable." I hung up after that. I didn't finish the Chinese food. I just sat there in the dark looking at my diploma, and I made myself a promise. I would stop trying to earn their approval. I would focus on the work that mattered to me, on the people I could help, on building a life that had meaning even if it didn't have my parents' recognition. But that wound, that deep knowledge that I wasn't enough for them, that never really healed, it just learned to live under my skin. The system in my family wasn't subtle once you knew how to see it. Every December, my parents sent out their annual Christmas card. It was always a professional photo shoot, the kind where everyone wore coordinated outfits in shades of cream and navy blue. The card went out to over 500 people on my mother's meticulously maintained mailing list. Daniel was always front and center. Sometimes it was just a shot of him, professional headshot style. Other years, it showed him receiving some award or shaking hands with someone important. The caption would read, "The Martinez family wishes you joy this holiday season." I wasn't on the card. The first year it happened, I thought maybe it was an oversight. The second year, I asked about it. My mother had waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, we just didn't have room for both photos, and Daniel's was more recent." The third year, I stopped asking. When Daniel turned 30, my parents rented out the entire country club for his birthday party. 200 guests, a jazz band, past hors d'oeuvres, and a raw bar. My mother spent 6 months planning it, choosing between 3 different event planners before settling on the most expensive one. The cake alone cost $1,200. When I turned 25, I got a text message from my mother. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Sorry we can't make it today. Very busy. Here's a voucher for a nice dinner. Enjoy." The voucher was for Olive Garden. I spent that birthday working late on a case involving a single mother fighting for custody of her daughter. We won. The mother cried and hugged me, and she said I was an angel. It was a better birthday than any party could have been, but it still hurt that my own family couldn't even manage a phone call. The financial disparity was just as stark. When Daniel bought his apartment in Manhattan, a sleek 2-bedroom overlooking Central Park West, my parents contributed $200,000 for the down payment. An investment in his future, my father called it. When I needed $3,000 for a security deposit on a studio apartment in the Bronx, I asked if I could borrow it. I had a job offer in hand. I could pay them back in 6 months. My father looked at me over his reading glasses. Sophia, you're almost 30 years old. You chose a career that doesn't pay well. Those are consequences you need to manage yourself. I just need $3,000 as a loan. And we just gave Daniel $200,000 for his investment property. We're not made of money, Sophia. I found the money by selling my car and using every cent of my savings. I moved into that studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and a card table as furniture. But I had my own place, and I'd done it myself. Still, every time I tried to prove myself, to show my family that my work mattered, they found ways to minimize it. I won a major case that was covered by the local news. A family was facing deportation because of a paperwork error, and I fought for 8 months to get that error corrected. When the judge ruled in our favor, the father picked me up and spun me around in the courthouse hallway. The local NBC affiliate interviewed me. It aired during the evening news. I texted my family the link. My mother responded 3 hours later. Couldn't watch, sorry, but I'm sure you did great. Hey, did you hear Daniel just got promoted to VP? I stopped texting them my wins after that, but the most painful moment came last Thanksgiving, just over a month before the New Year's Eve party. The whole family gathered at my parents' house in Greenwich. It was the kind of Norman Rockwell scene that looked perfect from the outside. A huge turkey, 3 kinds of stuffing, my mother's famous pecan pie. Everyone dressed nicely, wine glasses clinking, conversation flowing. My uncle asked me how work was going. Before I could answer, my mother jumped in. "Sophia's still doing that charity work," she said, her tone making it clear this was a phase I should have outgrown by now. Helping people who can't afford lawyers. "I'm an attorney," I corrected quietly. "I work for the Legal Aid Society." My uncle looked interested. "That's important work. My friend's daughter needed legal aid when her landlord tried to evict her illegally." My father cleared his throat. "It's admirable, certainly, but not exactly a real career path. Sophia could have joined a corporate firm, made 6 figures easy with her grades. Instead, she's living in the Bronx making, what, $58,000? $62, I said, my voice tight. "And it is a real career." "Of course it is," my mother said in that soothing tone that somehow made everything worse. "But corporate law is where the real attorneys are, honey, the ones who make partner and build something lasting." I looked down at my plate, blinking fast. Daniel, sitting across from me, was scrolling through his phone, completely unbothered by this conversation. He looked up long enough to say, "I just got a $400,000 bonus, thinking about buying a Tesla." The conversation immediately shifted to Daniel's bonus, his car options, his next vacation to the Maldives, and I sat there, invisible again, wondering why I even bothered coming to these dinners. That night, on the subway ride home, I stared at my reflection in the dark window. I was 28 years old. I had a law degree. I'd helped over 200 families in 3 years. I'd won cases that changed people's lives, and my own family thought I was wasting my time. I pulled out my laptop on the train and opened a job search site. Corporate law firms in New York. Starting salary, $190,000, plus bonuses, plus benefits, plus the kind of life my parents could brag about at their country club. My cursor hovered over the Apply button on a posting for White & Case. I thought about Mrs. Chen, the 72-year-old who would have been homeless if not for my help. I thought about the domestic violence survivor whose abuser I'd gotten a restraining order against last month. She'd told me I saved her life. I thought about the father facing deportation who could now watch his daughter graduate high school next year. I closed the laptop. This was my real job. This was who I really was. And if my family couldn't see that, maybe that said more about them than it did about me. But knowing that intellectually didn't stop it from hurting. It didn't fill the hole their rejection had carved into my chest. It didn't make me feel less alone. 3 years into my work at Legal Aid, something shifted. Not in my family, but in my professional world. I'd built a reputation without even realizing it. Other attorneys knew my name. Judges remembered my cases. I had a win rate of 87%, which was extraordinary for a public defender. Then I met Judge Carol Henderson. She was presiding over a domestic violence case I was handling. My client, a woman named Teresa, was trying to escape an abusive marriage. The prosecutor had resources I couldn't dream of: investigators, expert witnesses, a litigation team. I had my client's testimony, 3 years of medical records I'd compiled myself, and my own determination. I'd stayed up for 72 hours straight preparing for that trial. I knew every case precedent, every statute, every possible argument the prosecutor might make. When I stood up to give my opening statement, I saw Judge Henderson lean forward slightly, her expression sharpening with interest. We won the case. Teresa got her protection order, custody of her children, and the support she needed to start over. After the trial, Judge Henderson's clerk asked me to come to chambers. I went, nervous, wondering if I'd somehow made a procedural error. Judge Henderson was in her early 60s, a Latina woman with silver-streaked black hair and eyes that seemed to see straight through pretense. She gestured for me to sit. "I've been watching you, Ms. Martinez," she said. "You remind me of myself 30 years ago." I blinked. "Your Honor?" "I was the first Latina judge in this county," she continued. "I built my career from nothing. Public defender, legal aid, took every case nobody else wanted. People told me I was wasting my talent." She smiled slightly. "I assume people tell you the same thing." My throat tightened. "My family does." "Of course they do. Because they don't understand that impact isn't measured in billable hours or corner offices." She folded her hands on her desk. "This city needs attorneys like you, Ms. Martinez. I'd like to offer you something, mentorship, if you're interested." I was interested. Over the next 6 months, Judge Henderson became more than a mentor. She became the professional mother I'd never had. She introduced me to other judges, to city council members, to community leaders. She taught me trial strategies I'd never learned in school. She reviewed my briefs, attended my trials when she could, and pushed me to think bigger about the impact I could have. Through her, I started to see the network I'd been building without realizing it. My quiet, consistent work had earned me a reputation. People knew me as the attorney who never gave up, who fought for clients everyone else had written off, who showed up prepared and passionate every single time. I got invited to join committees. The Connecticut Lawyers for Justice asked me to serve on their board. The Immigration Rights Coalition wanted me as an advisor. The Governor's Task Force on Criminal Justice Reform invited me to consult. All unpaid positions, all after-hours work, all high impact. My parents had no idea any of this was happening. Why would they? I'd stopped trying to tell them about my work. They didn't read legal journals or follow Connecticut Bar Association news. They lived in a world of country clubs and charity galas, not courtrooms and community centers. 6 months before the New Year's Eve party, I took on the biggest case of my career. A challenge to the state's cash bail system, which was keeping thousands of low-income defendants in jail simply because they couldn't afford bail while wealthy defendants walked free. It was a constitutional nightmare, and it was destroying lives. Judge Henderson helped me assemble a team, 5 attorneys, all working pro bono, all believing in the cause. I was the lead attorney, which was terrifying and exhilarating. We worked for 4 months straight, building the strongest case we could. We argued before the Connecticut Supreme Court in October. We won in November. The ruling affected over 50,000 defendants across the state. The bail system had to be reformed. Thousands of people would no longer be held in jail simply because they were poor. CNN covered it. MSNBC ran a segment. The New York Times mentioned me by name. Lead attorney Sophia Martinez argued passionately for equal justice. My phone exploded with congratulations from colleagues, from judges, from former clients. Judge Henderson took me out for dinner and toasted me with champagne. "You're changing the world, mija," she said, her eyes bright with pride. I didn't tell my family. I knew how that conversation would go. But then came Thanksgiving, just a month after our victory. I went to my parents' house because that's what you do, even when your family doesn't really see you. I sat at the table, helped serve the turkey, smiled at the right moments. Daniel talked about his $50 million deal. My parents hung on his every word. My mother actually teared up with pride. "Our brilliant boy," she kept saying. When my mother finally turned to me and asked, "So, Sophia, anything new?" I could have told her. I could have said I just won a Supreme Court case that would change the lives of 50,000 people. I could have mentioned that I'd been on CNN, but I looked at her face, at the polite but distant interest in her eyes, and I knew it wouldn't matter. She'd find a way to minimize it, to redirect the conversation back to Daniel, to make it clear that my victories weren't the kind of victories that mattered to them. So I said, "Just the usual casework, nothing special." She nodded, already losing interest. "That's nice, honey." Then immediately back to Daniel. "Tell us more about your Tribeca apartment hunt." I sat there cutting my turkey into smaller and smaller pieces, thinking about how my ruling would impact more lives than Daniel's deal ever would, about how I'd been featured in the New York Times, about how Judge Henderson, a woman I'd known for 6 months, was prouder of me than my own mother had ever been. And I thought, maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't need their validation. Maybe the work is enough. But late that night, back in my apartment, staring at the framed copy of the Supreme Court ruling on my wall, I cried anyway. Because no matter how much you tell yourself you don't need your parents' love, some part of you never stops wanting it. 3 days before New Year's Eve, I received an official invitation in the mail, heavy cream cardstock, embossed lettering, the city seal at the top. The office of the mayor cordially invites you to the Citizen of the Year award ceremony to be held December 31st at 10 p.m. I stared at it, confused. This had to be a mistake, or maybe just a form letter sent to everyone who'd worked on high-profile cases that year. I almost threw it away, but something made me look up the venue. It was connected to the event space where my parents held their annual party. Different wing of the same building, but close enough that you could walk between them. I was still staring at the invitation when my phone rang. My mother. "Sophia, I'm calling about New Year's Eve." My heart lifted slightly. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe they wanted me there as family. "We're having our annual party," she continued. "Daniel's bringing his new fiancée, Brittany. Very important people are coming, including the mayor." "The mayor?" I repeated. "Yes, isn't that exciting? He's apparently attending several events that night in the venue. Anyway, we have it all covered. You don't need to come." The hope that had flickered died. "Oh. Actually," my mother said, and I could hear her thinking through her planning, "the catering company is short-handed. If you do want to come, maybe you could help serve. We could really use the extra hands." I stood in my apartment, invitation in one hand, phone in the other, trying to process what she was asking. She wanted me to serve drinks at her party. To be staff, not family. "Sure, Mom," I heard myself say. "I can help serve." "Wonderful. Oh, and Sophia, don't mention your work to the guests. They're business people. They wouldn't understand the whole legal aid thing. It's better if you just focus on serving. Don't mention my work. Don't embarrass them. Stay invisible." "Okay," I said quietly. "Perfect. See you then. Wear all black, please. Professional catering attire." She hung up. I looked down at the mayor's invitation again. Part of me wanted to refuse, to stay home, to protect myself from another humiliation. But another part of me, the part that was still that 13-year-old girl carrying her debate trophy to dinner, needed to be there, needed to try one more time. I RSVP'd to the mayor's office, assuming I'd just be one of many attendees, a face in the crowd. I ordered a catering uniform online, and I spent the next 3 days preparing for what would be the most devastating and transformative night of my life. New Year's Eve arrives cold and clear, the kind of Connecticut winter night where your breath fogs in the air and the stars look close enough to touch. I arrive at the venue through the service entrance at 7:30, carrying the mayor's invitation in my purse, like a secret I'm not quite ready to share with anyone, least of all myself. The catering manager, a harried woman named Diane, barely glances at me before handing over a uniform. "You're the Martinez family volunteer? Great. We need someone on champagne service. Just circulate, keep the glasses full, smile, don't engage in conversation unless absolutely necessary." Got it? I nod. The uniform is stiff and smells like industrial detergent. In the staff bathroom, I change and look at myself in the mirror. The person staring back barely resembles attorney Sophia Martinez, who argued before the state Supreme Court. This person looks like exactly what my mother wanted: invisible, useful, forgettable. I think about the invitation in my purse. The ceremony isn't until 10. I have time to serve drinks, to play the role my family has assigned me, and then maybe slip away to whatever general recognition event the mayor's office is hosting. It's fine. I've been invisible before. I can do it for a few more hours. The ballroom is already half full when I emerge with my first tray of champagne. The Martinez family always goes all out for New Year's Eve. This year is no exception. White roses everywhere, their scent almost overwhelming. A jazz quartet playing in the corner, waiters circulating with lobster canapes and beef Wellington bites. Everything gleams: the crystal, the silverware, the jewelry on the women, the cufflinks on the men. And there, at the center of it all, are my parents. My father, Richard Martinez, holds court near the bar, his loud laugh carrying across the room as he tells some story about a real estate deal. My mother, Patricia, floats between groups in her emerald gown, air-kissing cheeks, her smile perfect and practiced. She's in her element here, queen of her carefully constructed social kingdom. Daniel arrives at 8:15 with Brittany, his fiancée. Brittany is everything my mother always wanted in a daughter. Blonde, size 2, daughter of a hedge fund manager, wearing a diamond engagement ring the size of a small planet. She majored in art history at Dartmouth and now works at a gallery in Soho, the kind of job that's really more about connections than commerce. I'm refilling glasses near the entrance when they walk in. Daniel sees me first. For just a moment, something flickers across his face. Confusion, maybe. Recognition. But my mother is already there, pulling Brittany forward to meet some couple I don't recognize. "This is my son Daniel and his lovely fiancée Brittany," my mother gushes. "Daniel's with Goldman Sachs, just closed a major deal." Daniel shakes hands, accepts congratulations. He's good at this, always has been. He knows how to work a room, how to make people feel important while subtly reminding them of his accomplishments. Nobody asks about me. I'm just another server, anonymous in black, holding a tray of champagne. The evening progresses. I move through the crowd like a ghost, visible only when someone needs a fresh drink. I hear fragments of conversation: stock portfolios, vacation homes, private schools, charity boards. This is the world my parents chose. The world where success is measured in dollars and square footage and the right zip code. At 8:45, a guest stops me. An older woman in a navy cocktail dress, kind eyes behind designer glasses. "Excuse me, dear, have we met before? You look so familiar." My father appears out of nowhere, smoothly intercepting. "Just one of the catering staff, Mrs. Henderson. Can I introduce you to my son? He has some insights on the market you'd find fascinating." Mrs. Henderson looks confused, but I could have sworn. My father is already guiding her away toward Daniel. I stand there, champagne tray trembling slightly in my hands, wondering if I'm losing my mind. Would it have killed him to say, "This is my daughter, Sophia"? Would those 4 words have destroyed his whole night? But I know the answer. In their world, I do destroy things. I destroy the narrative. The Martinez family success story doesn't include a daughter who makes $62,000 a year, helping people who can't pay. That's not aspirational. That's not something you brag about at the country club. At 9:30, the energy in the room shifts. People start checking their phones, glancing toward the entrance. My mother's voice rises with excitement. "He's here! The mayor is here!" Mayor Thomas Reed enters with an entourage that parts the crowd like water. He's in his early 60s, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a dark suit that speaks of quiet authority. There's something about him that commands attention without demanding it. He's been mayor for 12 years, popular across party lines, known for caring more about results than politics. My parents descend on him like sharks sensing blood in the water. This is what they've been waiting for all night, the crown jewel of their guest list. My mother practically glows as she makes introductions. Mayor Reed, such an honor. This is my husband Richard and our son Daniel. Daniel is with Goldman Sachs. The mayor shakes hands politely, his smile professional but warm. Pleasure to meet you all. You have a lovely home. Oh, this is just the venue, my mother laughs, but we're so pleased you could join us. We were thrilled when your office said you'd be in the building tonight. I have several stops to make this evening, the mayor says. His eyes scan the room, and then they land on me. I'm standing near the windows, champagne tray in hand, trying to blend into the curtains. But the mayor's expression changes. His eyebrows rise slightly. He stares at me for a long moment, and I see recognition in his face. Real recognition, not the vague familiarity of someone trying to place a server they've seen at other parties. He looks like he's about to say something, but my mother is already pulling him toward another group of guests, introducing him to a CEO whose company just relocated to Connecticut. The mayor goes with her, but he glances back at me once, his expression troubled. I don't understand what just happened. How would the mayor recognize me? We've never met. I've worked on city cases, but always through other people, never directly with his office. At 10:05, I'm refilling glasses near the French doors that lead to the terrace when I hear shouting outside. Multiple voices rising in anger and fear. Other guests hear it too. Conversations pause. People move toward the windows. Through the glass, I see lights, red and blue flashing. Police lights. My mother's face goes white. What is happening? This will ruin everything. My father is already moving toward the doors. I'll handle this. Everyone stay inside. But I'm moving too, drawn by something I can't name. Through the doors, down the steps, onto the lawn that's been transformed into overflow parking for the night. There are 3 police cars, 6 officers, and in the middle of them, a young black man in a suit, handcuffed, being pushed face first against one of the vehicles. I didn't do anything, he's shouting. I'm just trying to get to my parents' party. They're guests here. Dr. and Dr. Williams. Sir, we received a call about a suspicious person on the property, one of the officers says, his voice hard. We need to verify your identity. I gave you my ID. It has my name. It has my parents' names. I know this dance. I've seen it 1,000 times. Young black man, nice neighborhood, white police officers who see a threat instead of a person. I've represented dozens of young men in situations exactly like this, and I know how quickly they can escalate, how a misunderstanding can turn into an arrest record, or worse. Behind me, guests are gathering on the terrace. They have their phones out, filming. My mother is making small, distressed sounds. This is a disaster, a complete disaster. The young man's eyes are wide with fear. He's 24, maybe 25, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. And he's terrified because he knows what I know. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you're wearing or where you're going. Sometimes the color of your skin is the only thing people see. I'm moving before I fully decide to move. Down the steps, across the lawn, my server's uniform rustling with each step. Officers, I'm an attorney. Or, my voice comes out steady, authoritative, nothing like the quiet, invisible person I've been all night. What's the probable cause for this detention? 6 sets of eyes turn to me. The lead officer, a white man in his 40s with a jaw like a steel trap, looks me up and down. Ma'am, step back. This doesn't concern you. I'm not stepping back. I pull out my phone. This young man has provided identification. Unless you have probable cause to detain him, you're violating his Fourth Amendment rights. I need your badge numbers, and I need them now. Ma'am, we received a call. A call reporting what specifically? I take a step closer. Behind me, I can feel the crowd of guests watching, but I don't care. I'm in lawyer mode now, the mode where nothing exists except my client and the law. Describe the suspicious activity. The officer's jaw tightens. Someone reported a person who didn't belong on the property. And what made this person think he didn't belong? His skin color? I raise my phone. I'm documenting this encounter. You've detained this man without probable cause. Release him now, or I'm calling the district attorney's office and filing a complaint for unlawful detention." "Who the hell do you think you are?" another officer snaps. "Attorney Sophia Martinez, Connecticut Bar number 84726. And I know exactly what's happening here. You've profiled this man based on his race, detained him without cause, and now you're hoping he'll just comply so you can justify the stop after the fact. It's not going to happen. Release him, now." There's a moment where I think it might go wrong. The officers are angry. The young man is shaking. The crowd behind me is dead silent. And then another voice cuts through the tension. "Officers, stand down." The chief of police is striding across the lawn. He must have been inside with the mayor's entourage. He's a black man in his 50s, and he looks furious, but not at me. "Release Mr. Williams immediately," he orders. "This detention was inappropriate." The handcuffs come off. The young man stumbles forward, rubbing his wrists. I catch his arm, steadying him. "Are you okay?" I ask quietly. He's crying. "Thank you. God, thank you. I was just trying to go to my parents' party. Someone called the cops on me for walking across the lawn." Behind me, a black couple pushes through the crowd. The woman is in an elegant gown, the man in a tuxedo. "Marcus!" The woman runs to the young man, pulling him into her arms. "Baby, are you okay? We saw from inside. We were trying to get to you." "I'm fine, Mom." Marcus is still shaking. This woman helped me. She stood up to them. The mother turns to me, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you so much. If you hadn't been here..." She can't finish the sentence, but she doesn't need to. We all know how these encounters can end. "Just doing what's right," I say, and I mean it. This is what I do. This is who I am, even in a server's uniform, even at my parents' party, even when it makes me the center of attention I never wanted. I turn to go back inside, and that's when I see him. Mayor Thomas Reed is standing on the terrace, and he's been watching everything. Our eyes meet across the lawn, and the expression on his face is complex. Recognition, definitely. Respect. And something else I can't quite read. Behind the mayor, my parents stand frozen. My mother's face has gone from white to red. My father looks like someone just told him his house is on fire. And Daniel is staring at me like he's never seen me before in his life. I walk back up the lawn, past the police cars, past the murmuring guests. My mother grabs my arm as I reach the terrace. "Sophia," she hisses, "what were you thinking? You made a scene in front of the mayor, in front of everyone." "I was thinking that young man was about to be arrested for the crime of being black on your property, Mom. That's not... You can't just... We have a reputation." "I'm sorry my basic human decency interferes with your party." I try to pull away, but she holds on. "This is exactly why we didn't want you here as a guest. You always make everything so difficult." Something in me breaks at that. Not my heart, that broke years ago, but my last thin hope that they might see me, really see me, dies right there on the terrace. "I'll go," I say quietly. "I'm clearly embarrassing you." I head for the service entrance, just wanting to get out, to get home, to be alone. But it's 10:40 now, and as I push through the ballroom, I realize the crowd is moving, shifting. Everyone heading toward the main room, toward the stage that's been set up at the far end. "Ladies and gentlemen," a woman's voice booms through the speakers. "If you could all gather near the stage, please. The mayor has an important announcement before we ring in the new year." I should leave. I should go home. But something makes me stay, hovering near the back of the crowd. Maybe I just want to see what announcement is so important that it justifies the mayor coming to a private party. Maybe I'm delaying the moment I have to go back to my empty apartment and admit that my family will never change. The crowd settles. My mother and father are near the front, having pushed their way through with Daniel and Brittany. They're trying to look composed, but I can see the tension in my mother's shoulders. The scene on the lawn damaged her perfect evening, and she's calculating how to recover. Mayor Reed steps up to the microphone. The room goes quiet. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt your celebration for just a few minutes." His voice is warm, practiced. Every year, the city of Connecticut recognizes one individual who has demonstrated exceptional service to our community, someone who embodies the values we hold dear: justice, compassion, and courage. My mother perks up. She's probably hoping some important donor is about to be recognized, someone she can network with. This year's Citizen of the Year award goes to someone who has changed our justice system, the mayor continues. Someone who has fought tirelessly for those without a voice. Someone who has helped hundreds of families stay together, kept innocent people out of jail, and challenged laws that perpetuated inequality. I realize with a jolt that I'm supposed to be at an awards ceremony right now. The invitation said 10 p.m. This must be it. The mayor is making his rounds of different parties in the building, announcing the winner at each one. I wonder who won. Probably a judge, or maybe one of the senior partners at a big firm who does pro bono work on the side. This attorney has won 87% of her cases, the mayor says. She served over 250 families. She led the team that successfully challenged Connecticut's cash bail system at the state Supreme Court, a ruling that will impact 50,000 defendants. Wait, she's been featured in the New York Times. She consults for the governor's task force on criminal justice reform. She serves on the board of Connecticut Lawyers for Justice. And she's done all of this while earning a fraction of what corporate attorneys make, because she chose service over salary. No, this isn't. And tonight, the mayor's voice softens. I watched her step up without hesitation to protect a young man's rights, even though it meant risking her own comfort and reputation. My heart is pounding so hard I can't breathe. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's Citizen of the Year, Attorney Sophia Martinez. The room erupts, but not with applause, with shock, with confusion, with the sound of 200 people trying to process what they just heard. I'm frozen. I can't move. I can't think. Did he just say my name? At the front of the room, I hear the distinct sound of breaking glass. My mother's champagne flute slipping from her hand, shattering against the marble floor. What the fuck? Daniel's voice carries across the sudden silence. Brittany's voice, shrill with disbelief. The catering girl. Sophia? The mayor is scanning the crowd. Where are you? Come up, please. I still can't move. This isn't real. This is some kind of mistake. I'm a public defender who lives in a studio apartment and survives on ramen and coffee. I'm not Citizen of the Year. I'm not anyone. And then I see Judge Henderson pushing through the crowd. She's been here the whole time, and I didn't even notice. She reaches me, and her face is bright with pride and tears. "Mia," she says softly, "get up there. You earned this." I'm wearing a catering uniform. I don't care if you're wearing a potato sack. That award has your name on it. Now move. She takes my hand and pulls me forward. The crowd parts, and suddenly I'm walking down an aisle of stunned faces. People I've been serving drinks to all night. People who looked through me like I wasn't there, and now they're staring at me like I'm an alien. I pass my parents. My father's face is ashen. My mother looks like she might faint. Daniel is just standing there, mouth open, unable to form words. And then I'm at the stage, climbing the steps, and Mayor Reed is there with his hand extended and a smile on his face. "Ms. Martinez," he says warmly, "it's an honor." He hands me a crystal award. It's heavy, engraved with my name and the city seal. I stare at it, and then at the crowd, and I still can't quite process that this is happening. The mayor isn't done. I want everyone to know what this woman has accomplished. In 3 years, she's changed the justice system in our state. The bail reform case alone will help 50,000 people who would otherwise be stuck in jail simply because they couldn't afford bail. That's 50,000 lives, 50,000 families. A screen behind us lights up. It's a video, testimonials from people I've helped. Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman from my internship, now 80 years old. Sophia saved my home. Without her, I would have been on the streets. Maria, the single mother from one of my first cases, she fought for me when everyone else had given up. My daughter is in college now because Sophia kept our family together. The father who was facing deportation. I'm still here with my children because of Attorney Martinez. She never stopped fighting for us. Judge Henderson appears on screen. Sophia Martinez represents the very best of our legal profession. She doesn't do this work for money or recognition. She does it because it's right. The final clip is from the governor. Attorney Martinez's work on criminal justice reform has been instrumental in making Connecticut a fairer, more just state. She represents the kind of lawyer we need more of. When the video ends, the room is silent. Then someone starts clapping. It's Mr. Williams, the father of the young man I helped outside. The applause spreads, slowly at first, then building. Within seconds, it's thunderous. 200 people standing, applauding. I'm crying. I can't help it. Years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of having my work minimized, and now this public, undeniable recognition. I look out at the crowd, at Judge Henderson beaming with pride, at Mr. and Mrs. Williams and their son Marcus, all crying and clapping, at colleagues I didn't know were here, at people I've helped over the years who somehow heard about this and came, and at my family. My mother is standing very still, her face pale, champagne stains on her gown from the dropped glass. My father has his hand over his mouth. Daniel looks like someone just told him the earth is flat. Brittany is whispering frantically to him, pointing at her phone. The mayor speaks again. "Ms. Martinez, would you like to say a few words?" I step up to the microphone. My hands are shaking. My voice cracks. I clear my throat. I don't know what to say. I'm just doing my job. "You're doing more than that," the mayor says gently. I look out at all those faces, and then, because I can't help myself, my eyes find my parents. I became a lawyer because I believe everyone deserves justice, I say slowly. Not just people who can afford it, not just people who look a certain way or come from the right families, everyone. My mother's expression flickers. Shame, maybe, or embarrassment. For a long time, I thought that belief made me less valuable. That choosing this path made me less successful than people who chose money or status. I'm talking to the room, but I'm looking at my parents. But tonight, standing here, I realize something. Impact isn't measured in dollars or corner offices. It's measured in lives changed, families kept together, justice served. The applause starts again. But I'm not done. I want to thank Judge Carol Henderson, my mentor, who saw value in me when I couldn't see it in myself. I want to thank everyone who trusted me with their cases, who let me fight for them. And I want to thank everyone who's been part of this journey. I don't thank my parents. The omission hangs in the air like smoke. The ceremony concludes. People swarm the stage, wanting to congratulate me, to talk to me, to tell me stories about people I've helped. I'm overwhelmed, shaking hands, accepting hugs, trying to process all of it. And through it all, I'm aware of my parents standing at the edge of the crowd, watching, not approaching, just watching, as if they're seeing me for the first time and don't know what to do with what they're seeing. At 11:30, the crowd finally thins. Most people have moved toward the countdown preparation, getting their champagne ready to ring in the new year. I'm standing near the windows, still holding my Crystal Award, still wearing my catering uniform. My mother approaches. She's composed now, her public face firmly in place. "Sophia," she says, "darling, we're so proud of you." I just look at her. "We had no idea you'd accomplish so much," she continues. "You never told us." "I tried to tell you," I say quietly. "You never listened." My father joins her. "Sophia, this is incredible. Our daughter, Citizen of the Year. We always knew you'd do great things." "No, you didn't." My voice is steady. "You asked me to serve drinks tonight. You introduced Daniel to everyone as your son, and you pretended I didn't exist. We didn't want you to feel pressured," my mother tries. "Pressured? You told me not to mention my work to your guests because they were business people who wouldn't understand. You called my life's work charity at Thanksgiving. You didn't come to my law school graduation." People nearby are starting to stare. My mother notices, her face flushing. Sophia, please. Not here, not now. Let's go somewhere private. No. I shake my head. I've been invisible my whole life. I've been quiet and patient and understanding. I've made excuses for you. I've told myself it didn't matter. But it does matter. It always mattered. Daniel pushes forward. Brittany is notably absent, probably already calculating whether being associated with this family drama is worth the engagement ring. Sis, come on, we're proud of you, really. I was just telling Brittany about your work. No, you weren't. I look at him, really look at him, and see a stranger. You've never asked about my work, not once. You've never been to my apartment. You don't know what I do every day or why I do it. You know nothing about me except that I embarrass you. That's not fair. It's completely fair. I clutch the award tighter. I needed you at my graduation. I needed you when I won my first case. I needed you every single time I called with good news and you changed the subject. And you weren't there. None of you were. My mother reaches for my arm. We're here now. Now that I have an award everyone can see. Now that the mayor knows my name. Now that I'm not embarrassing anymore. I pull away from her. But where were you when I was nobody? When I was just Sophia, trying to make a difference? The countdown starts in the background. 59, 58, 57. Sophia, please, my father says. We're your parents. We love you. Love isn't just a word, I tell them. It's actions. And your actions have told me for 15 years that I'm not good enough, that my work doesn't matter, that I'm worth less than Daniel. 30 seconds. 29. 28. If you want a relationship with me going forward, that's fine. But it has to be real. I look at each of them. You have to actually see me. Not Sophia the lawyer with the impressive award. Sophia, the person I've always been. 15 seconds. I need time, I say. I need to figure out who I am, separate from trying to earn your love. And you need to figure out if you're capable of giving it. 5, 4, 3. Happy New Year, I say, and I walk away from them as the room erupts in celebration. Judge Henderson finds me on the terrace. It's cold out here, but I need the air, need the space to breathe. That was brave, she says, handing me her coat. That was brutal, I correct, wrapping the coat around my shoulders. Sometimes those things are the same. She stands next to me, both of us looking out at the city lights. You okay? I don't know. I look down at the award in my hands. Is this real? It's real. You earned it. Every bit of it. They asked me to serve drinks, I whisper. My own parents asked me to be the help at their party. I know, Mija, I know. How do I come back from that? How do I have a relationship with people who were that ashamed of me? Judge Henderson is quiet for a long moment. Maybe you don't come back from it. Maybe you move forward to something new, something healthier. They're my family. Family is more than blood. It's the people who see you, who support you, who celebrate your victories and hold you through your losses. She gestures back toward the ballroom. You have family in there, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, your colleagues, your clients, me. I start crying again, and she pulls me into a hug. You're not alone, Sophia. You never were. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy looking at the people who refused to see you. We stand there as the new year begins, and I realize she's right. I've been so focused on earning my parents' love that I didn't notice all the people who loved me already, without conditions, without needing me to be anyone other than who I am. It's a start. The next morning, January 1st, I wake up in my apartment with a splitting headache and a crystal award on my nightstand. For a moment, I think it was all a dream. Then my phone buzzes. 43 text messages, 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails. Most are congratulations from colleagues, from former clients, from people I went to law school with who saw the news coverage. Yes, news coverage. Apparently, the mayor's announcement made local news, and the video of me confronting the police on the lawn has gone viral on social media. 3 messages are from my mother, 2 from my father, 5 from Daniel. We need to talk. Please call us. Sophia, this is important. We can't just leave things like this. I don't respond. Not yet. I need time to think, to process, to figure out who I am now that everything has changed. On January 3rd, my parents show up at my apartment. I hear the knock and consider not answering, but running away won't solve anything. I open the door. My mother looks like she hasn't slept. My father seems to have aged 10 years. Sophia, my mother says, can we come in? I let them in because it's cold outside, not because I'm ready to forgive. They stand in my studio apartment, looking around at my modest furniture, my law books stacked everywhere, the photos on my walls of clients and colleagues. You've never been here before, I observe. No, my father admits. We haven't. My mother is crying. Real tears, not the decorative kind she uses at charity events. Sophia, we're so sorry. We didn't understand. We didn't see. You didn't want to see, I correct. There's a difference. You're right. My father sits heavily on my second-hand couch. We were wrong. We were ashamed of something that we should have been proud of. And we hurt you. Badly. For 15 years, I say, since I was 13 years old and won that debate trophy. You've been telling me I'm not enough for 15 years. My mother sinks into a chair. We thought we were protecting you. We thought, your work doesn't pay well, and we were worried about your future. We thought if we pushed hard enough, you'd choose a more stable path. You weren't worried about my future. You were embarrassed that I chose to help poor people instead of making money. The truth of it sits in the room like a third person. Yes, my father finally says, we were, and that was wrong. Deeply wrong. You missed my law school graduation, I say, and my voice breaks. You had a spa appointment and a golf tournament and a work meeting, all on the same day. What are the odds of that? My mother covers her face with her hands. We made excuses because we were ashamed, because we didn't want to go to a state school graduation when Daniel had gone to Harvard, because we didn't want people to ask about your career and have to explain that you were a public defender. I'm not a public defender. I'm an attorney who chose to use my law degree to help people who need it most. We know that now, my father says. We saw it last night. We saw you stand up to those police officers without thinking twice. We saw the video testimonials. We heard the governor. He pauses. We saw what everyone else has seen for years, that you're remarkable. I was always remarkable, I whisper. You just didn't think helping poor people was remarkable enough. We were wrong. My mother looks at me, her perfect makeup smeared with tears. We were so wrong, Sophia, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to give you back all those years we should have been proud of you. You can't, I say. You can't give them back. You can't erase the pain. You can't undo standing in the back of my graduation and taking a selfie alone. You can't undo every time you changed the subject when I tried to tell you about my work. We know, my father says. We know we can't fix the past. But can we try to do better in the future? I look at them, these people who gave me life but forgot to give me love. I don't know. I honestly don't know if we can have a healthy relationship. We want to try, my mother says, if you'll let us. I need boundaries, I tell them. I need you to understand that this is who I am. I'm not going to switch to corporate law. I'm not going to apologize for my work. I'm not going to be Daniel. We don't want you to be Daniel, my father says. We want you to be Sophia. We need to learn who that is. It's not forgiveness. It's not even close, but it's a start. I need time, I say. I need space to figure out if I can trust you again. However long you need, my mother says. We'll wait. They leave, and I stand in my apartment, exhausted and wrung out. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Judge Henderson. Proud of you for setting boundaries. That's growth. I realize she's right. For the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first. Not trying to earn love, not trying to prove worth, just being. Weeks pass. I don't hear from my parents, and I'm grateful for the silence. I focus on work, on cases, on the life I've built for myself. I move to a better apartment, a one-bedroom in a safer neighborhood. I accept the raise my boss has been trying to give me for a year. I start dating a lawyer I met through Judge Henderson, someone who asks about my cases and actually listens to the answers. I don't cut my parents out completely, but I don't reach out either. If they want a relationship, they need to prove they can handle the real me, not just the award-winning version. Then, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I'm speaking at a community event about criminal justice reform. It's a big audience, mostly activists and lawyers and formerly incarcerated people working to change the system. I'm nervous, but I believe in the message. I look out into the audience, scanning the faces, and I freeze. My parents are there, sitting in the back row quietly, not in the front where they can be seen, not making it about them, just present. My eyes meet my mother's. She gives me a small, tentative smile. My father nods once. I take a breath and continue my speech. I talk about the bail reform case, about systemic inequality, about the work we still need to do. And the whole time, I'm aware of them there, listening, really listening. After the speech, they don't rush up to me. They wait until everyone else has had their chance, until the crowd is thinned. Then my mother approaches, holding something. "We won't keep you," she says. "We just wanted you to have this." It's a framed photo. My law school graduation. I'm standing with the dean, diploma in hand, smiling despite being alone. They must have found it online, tracked it down from the university archives. "We should have been there," my father says quietly. "We can't change that, but we're here now." I look at the photo, at the girl I was, and then at my parents. They look older, smaller somehow, less sure of themselves. "Thank you," I say, accepting the frame. "Your mother and I have been reading about your work," my father continues. "The articles, the case summaries. We've been trying to understand what you do." "And?" I ask cautiously. "And you're changing the world," my mother says. "You're literally changing the world, one case at a time. And we missed it. We missed all of it because we were too busy looking at the wrong things." It's not a magic fix. It's not a Hollywood ending where everything is suddenly perfect, but it's real. It's honest. It's them finally seeing me. "Do you want to come to dinner?" I hear myself ask. "Nothing fancy, just dinner." My mother's face lights up. "We'd love that." "Sunday?" I suggest. "My place, 6 p.m., and we talk. Really talk. About everything." "We'll be there," my father promises. They leave, and I stand there holding the framed photo of my graduation. Judge Henderson appears at my elbow. "Was that your parents?" she asks. "Yeah." "Progress?" "Maybe." I look down at the photo. Baby steps. "Baby steps are still steps," she says wisely. That Sunday, my parents come to dinner. It's awkward at first. We don't know how to be around each other without the old patterns, the old roles. But slowly we start to talk. Really talk. My mother asks about my cases. Specific questions, showing she's actually read the articles. My father wants to know about the bail reform case, how we built our argument, what the impact has been. And for the first time in my life, they listen to my answers. Daniel shows up unannounced halfway through dinner. Brittany is gone. Apparently she broke off the engagement after the party. He's humbled, uncertain. "I've been thinking," he says, standing in my doorway, "about what you said, about how we treated you." "And?" I ask. "And you were right, about all of it. I never asked about your work. I never visited. I assumed I was better because I made more money." "You're not better, Daniel. You're just different." "But am I doing anything that matters?" he asks, and I hear real uncertainty in his voice. "I make rich people richer. You save lives. How did I become the family success story?" It's a good question. We let him join dinner. We talk, the four of us, for hours. It's not perfect. Old resentments bubble up. There are tense moments and uncomfortable silences. But we're trying. All of us are trying. As the evening ends and they're leaving, my mother hugs me. A real hug, not the air kiss society greeting she usually offers. I'm sorry, she whispers, for all of it, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the mother you deserved. I don't need perfect, I tell her. I just need real. Real, she repeats. I can do real. They leave, and I clean up the dinner dishes, and I realize something. I'm okay. Not because they apologized, not because they finally validated my work, but because I know my worth now. I know what I've built, who I am, what I've accomplished. The award from the mayor sits on my bookshelf, but it's not the only thing there. There are thank you cards from clients, photos with Judge Henderson, a letter from a kid I helped keep out of juvie who's now in college. These are the measures of success that matter. 6 months later, it's New Year's Eve again. I'm not at my parents' party. I'm hosting my own gathering in my apartment. Judge Henderson is here, Mr. and Mrs. Williams and their son Marcus. Colleagues from legal aid, former clients who've become friends, my boyfriend who looks at me like I hung the moon, and my parents, and Daniel. They're not the center of attention. They're not even trying to be. They're just part of the group, listening to stories about cases and victories, laughing at inside jokes they don't quite get yet. My mother is talking to Mrs. Williams about their sons. My father is actually asking Judge Henderson about her career journey. Daniel is discussing pro bono work with one of my colleagues. At midnight, when we count down and celebrate, my mother finds me. "Happy New Year, Sophia," she says. "Happy New Year, Mom." "I'm proud of you," she says. "I should have told you that every day for the past 15 years, but I'm telling you now. I'm so proud of who you are." I don't cry. I've done enough crying over my family, but I smile and I hug her, and I let myself feel the peace of being seen. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The family you choose, the family you build through shared values, that's the family that matters most. But sometimes, if you're lucky and patient and brave enough to demand what you deserve, your biological family can learn to be part of your chosen family too. They didn't need to give me an award to prove my worth, but watching them finally understand what I've been doing all along, that's not about validation. That's about hope. Hope that people can grow, that love can be learned, that it's never too late to really see someone. I look around my apartment at all these people who love me, who celebrate me, who see me. My parents are here, but they're not the center. They're just part of the whole, learning their place in a story they tried to write without me. And me? I'm exactly where I belong, surrounded by people I've helped and people who've helped me, doing work that matters, living a life of purpose and meaning. I may have started the year serving champagne at my parents' party, invisible and dismissed, but I'm ending it standing in my own light, surrounded by my own people, living my own truth. And that's the greatest victory of all.